Now, before moving on to the next verse, let's try and put in perspective everything that has been said so far. We saw that till verse number 30, Krishna presented the view of absolute reality. He did that for the removal of Arjuna's delusion, moha, because Arjuna was taking his situation as the absolute reality. And he was therefore sorrowful, he was grieving. So Krishna tried to give him a reality check, so to say, and encouraged him to perform his duty. Then we saw that from verse 31 to verse 37, Krishna appealed to Arjuna's sense of duty. He pointed out some practical facts about his choices. It's almost like something that a friend would say to another friend. So Krishna spoke from both points of view, the metaphysical and the practical. It's like he was saying, Arjuna, I have shown you the direction in which the higher knowledge of self takes you. I have also shown you the direction in which your duty and the ethical standard of your order takes you. Now, whichever you consider acceptable, the conclusion is the same. Fulfill your duty. Having said all this, in verse number 38, Krishna moved on to a new topic. He told Arjuna the right approach to performing his duty. This marks the beginning of a new section, a new subject matter in the chapter. And in this section, we will understand what should be the right approach towards any action and why. This is the famous Karma Yoga of the Gita. You see, the whole teaching of the Gita is divided under two main topics. Number one, knowledge of the absolute reality, Brahma Vidya, also called Atma Gyan, that is self-knowledge. This is the first topic. And second is about preparing the mind of the individual jiva for the knowledge. This is the second topic, which is the Karma Yoga. There is no third topic in the Gita. Everything said in the Gita can be put under these two headings. Please understand this very, very clearly. This is how we see the Gita. This is how Shankara sees the Gita. There are many other interpretations of the Gita, and some of them say that Gita talks about three paths, three ways of reaching the same goal. They call them Karma Marg, Bhakti Marg, and Gyan Marg. They say that people can choose one of these three paths, and according to their temperament, all these paths will lead to liberation. But is this really the right way of understanding everything that has been said in the Gita? It's probably not, and let us try to understand why. First thing that we have to understand is the meaning of liberation or moksha itself. What does it mean to attain moksha? Can you tell? If you have seen the introduction video number 10, then you would know the answer. If you haven't seen it, I suggest that you go back and see it. But I will still talk about this topic again. Moksha or liberation is nothing but the knowledge of the absolute reality, Atma-gyan, self-knowledge. Please try to understand this. Moksha does not mean going to some other loka or, reaching heaven and staying in heaven forever. That is not the meaning of moksha. Moksha simply means knowledge of the absolute reality, Atma-gyan or self-knowledge, which is attainable right here in this lifetime. You see, bondage, bandhan, is there only because we don't know the reality. We are ignorant about that absolute truth. We think that this world as we see it is real. This body-mind complex with which we identify as ourself is real. We think that I am this body-mind complex, I am this mortal and limited individual who is born and who dies, who is caught in the cycle of birth and death. It is because we have this kind of ignorance that we suffer. And we struggle through many cycles of birth and death. This ignorance is the cause of our bondage. And what do we do through all these cycles of birth and death? We are constantly trying to find a way to become free. We try to free ourselves from feeling limited, from feeling incomplete, insignificant, from this feeling of inadequacy. We feel this way about ourselves because of the ignorance only. Because we think we are this limited individual. But instead of working on the ignorance, we run after other things. We go after money and social status, because perhaps becoming rich would make us feel fulfilled. We go after careers and achievements and so on. We think that would make us feel significant and complete. Some people go after power, name and fame. Others go after a certain lifestyle that they have a fancy for. And so many other things. All in the quest of becoming fulfilled. One after the other. All in the hope of overcoming this sense of incompleteness, this sense of inadequacy. But does it happen? It does not. We get one thing, we feel fine for a while, and then we begin feeling the emptiness again. We go after another thing, anxiously and desperately, We acquire it and feel fine for some time, but then we begin feeling inadequate again. None of these efforts seem to be capable of giving us permanent freedom from this inadequacy. And so we keep going from one life to another life to another, searching for that freedom in vain in all these various pursuits of the world. What is the reality? The reality is that I am not this mortal body mind. I am not this limited individual. I am not really inadequate at all. I am actually limitless. I am complete. I am that pure consciousness which is the truth of it all. How can I be lacking in anything? What is there to lack when I am the whole, the complete? And this is the reality. But due to our ignorance of this reality, we keep struggling, we keep suffering, and we go through the cycle of birth and death. So the only way of becoming liberated is to remove our ignorance and know about our true self. That is the meaning of liberation or moksha. Knowledge is the only way of liberation. Is there any other way? If bondage is due to ignorance, if we accept this fact, then liberation can only be through knowledge. Actually, if you pay close attention to what it all means, then you will understand that you are actually already free. You are already mukt. You just don't know this. You are limitless. The Gita is saying, you are limitless. You are eternal. You are unbound. You don't have to become limitless. You already are. So it means you are already free. You're already that pure consciousness. The trouble is, you don't know this. You don't understand it clearly. You wonder how it is so. That is the problem. And therefore, clearing this doubt, clearing this ignorance is the only solution. There is no separate path called Gyan Marga. Please understand this. Some think that Gyan Marga is this separate path only for the philosophically inclined people. But that is not so. Gyan or knowledge is the very means of liberation. It is the very meaning of liberation, rather. Everybody has to remove the ignorance, and only then can they realize how they are free. So there is no separate marg, no separate path of Gyan reserved for the so-called philosophically inclined. Everyone has to achieve this knowledge. Also, note here that no amount of actions or karma can liberate you. Keep this in mind. This is a very important thing to remember. Actions can get you what you don't have. Action is about apraptasya prapti. If liberation was something that you didn't have, then action could have helped. But the fact is that you are already free. You're not bound at all in reality. The body is bound, the subtle body is bound, but Atma, the true self, is not. You are free internally. Right? So freedom doesn't have to be acquired through actions. It only has to be known. You don't have to become free. You just have to know how you are free. So knowledge is the only solution. Now, okay, accepted that knowledge is the only way to liberation. The question is, how do I get this knowledge? The answer is through the Shabd Praman. Remember, I talked about it while explaining verse number 18. Self is aprameya. It is not an object of knowledge for the eyes, ears, etc. Self cannot be known as an object like you know other objects of the world through direct perception or inference or any other means that you use to know other objects of the world. Self can only be known by the words of the revealed scripture, the Shruti. It is the revealed knowledge, and only by its means can you know that absolute reality. So the next question would be, okay, so let's read the Shruti and be liberated. What's the problem? Well, the thing is that this knowledge cannot take place just like that, anytime, anywhere. It requires a mind which is capable of receiving this knowledge, capable of accepting this knowledge, capable of understanding this knowledge. It needs a ready mind, a capable mind. Have you noticed how your mind is right now? Right now, your mind considers the self to be completely limited to this single body-mind complex. Its entire self-concept is defined by the attributes of the body and the mind. It considers the self to be limited to the needs and desires of this body-mind only, limited by its emotions, its thoughts, its beliefs. It acts only to fulfill the needs of this body and mind. It acts only according to the likes and dislikes of this body and mind. Ragas and dveshas. Likes and dislikes are called raga and dvesha in the Gita. Can such a mind understand how self is limitless? It cannot. So, the mind has to be prepared first. In other words, it has to be purified of this sense of limitation. It has to imbibe oneness with the world around. It has to grow out of this sense of limitation and bring in oneness with the world around. Such inner purification is necessary to become capable of understanding how the self is limitless. And here actions come into the picture. When actions are performed only to fulfill one's duty towards others, when actions are not controlled by personal likes and dislikes, raga dveshas, then one is able to neutralize the control of those raga dveshas on the mind and grow out of the sense of limitation. Then one can imbibe oneness with the world around. This is the Karma Yoga which we will now study. And this is the reason why Krishna has been insisting Arjuna to perform his duty again and again. Because if he doesn't perform his duty, then he will not be moving in the direction of moksha. And moksha is the goal of life. It is what we are all searching for, without even realizing it. So, the whole process has 2 steps. First step is to prepare the mind by performing actions only to fulfill duties so that personal raga dveshas are neutralized and one grows out of the sense of limitation, the Karma Yoga. And then comes the second step. After the mind is ready, you remove the ignorance through the knowledge of the Shabda Praman, the Shruti. That is, the Upanishads and the Gita. These are the 2 steps, the 2 stages you may call them. Later Krishna will call them the 2 nishthas, the 2 stages. There are no multiple paths. Okay? There are no multiple paths as some people believe. At least not in the way we will be looking at the Gita. One can ask, what about Bhakti Marg? Gita talks about Bhakti, and you have not talked about Bhakti till now. So you must understand that Bhakti is not a separate path. Bhakti is an attitude of devotion towards Ishvara which is present in both these stages. In stage 1 as well as stage 2. It is there through and through Bhakti. It is not a separate path leading directly to moksha. I will elaborate upon this later on when the time comes, but for now just remember this. So, having summarized all that has been said so far, and having understood the overall picture of where everything fits in, let's move on to the next verse where Krishna mentions these 2 stages very clearly. Esha te abhihita sankhye buddhir yoge tvimam shrunu buddhaya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. Knowledge pertaining to the absolute reality was said unto you. Now hear knowledge pertaining to the yoga, that is Karma Yoga. Endowed with such knowledge, you shall overcome the bondage of actions, O Parth. A very, very crucial verse to understand, and that is why this entire video was devoted to this verse alone. A lot of misinterpretations and misconceptions about this verse are out there. Let us understand it the way Shankara has explained it. Esha te abhihita sankhye. This is the first part of the first line. The word Sankhya here means the knowledge of the absolute reality. Brahma Vidya, Atma Gyan, which was imparted from verses 2.11 to 2.30. Sankhya, if some of you are aware, is also the name of a particular school of thought, a particular philosophy founded by sage Kapila in the ancient times. In his philosophy, Kapil tried to postulate the nature of absolute reality, but his view was dualistic. He did not think that there is one reality. He thought there are two independent realities, Purusha and Prakriti. These are the terms that he used. Gita will also use these terms later on, but with an altogether different meaning. So do not think that this Sankhya mentioned here in the Gita is the same Sankhya of Kapila Muni. Here the word is used only to mean knowledge of the absolute reality, which is one, limitless, truth of it all. And then it says, Yoge tu imam shrunu. Now hear about the yoga. Again, the word yoga is used in different ways in different places. Here it is used in the sense of something that helps you achieve something that you don't have. Apraptasya prapti. And so it is used to denote Karma Yoga. As I explained earlier, it is a means of achieving a pure mind which is suitable for self-knowledge. Generally, people think of yoga as a form of physical exercise where people do various asanas. But that is the Hatha Yoga, and it has a totally different philosophy behind it. Gita does not have anything to do with Hatha Yoga. Another common understanding of yoga is the Ashtanga Marg of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. But that is again an altogether different philosophy. Here, the meaning is very simple and clear. It is used in the sense of something that helps you achieve something that you don't have. When actions are used to achieve a pure mind, it is called Karma Yoga. Then it says, endowed with such knowledge, you shall overcome the bondage of actions. So here it is important to understand the intention. It does not mean that by knowing about Karma Yoga, you are fully equipped to overcome bondage of actions. No. Through Karma Yoga, when you have achieved the pure mind and thereafter removed ignorance by the study of Shruti, then only will the bondage be overcome. Karma Yoga is not the direct means of liberation. Please remember this. It does not lead you directly to liberation. How can it? No action is useful when it comes to liberation. The direct means is only knowledge, Shruti. Karma Yoga is the indirect means. It does not directly give liberation but is the necessary preliminary stage. And so, to praise this necessary preliminary stage, this line has been said by Krishna. Right? So I hope all this is clear to everyone. If you have any questions, please do post them below. And we will continue with the next set of verses in the next video.